And fantastic. And hello, it is Kathy Frey here from IMCO, from the International Integrated Maternity Healthcare Organisation. And welcome along today to our guest speaker from New York, Eli Lilios. Say hello, Eli.
How are you, Kathy? How are everyone?
We're all good. Wonderful to have you here. And Eli is the founder of the New York Hypnosis Center. He holds a variety of hypnosis-related training and certifications, and is endorsed a leading hypnosis trainer, a neuro-linguistic program and practitioner, which also often goes hand in hand, isn't it? And a hypnotist certified by the International Alliance of Certified Hypnotists and Therapists, as well as the National Guild of Hypnotists Guild and the IACT. So we're going to be talking today about how hypnosis can help conception. For those of you new here, there is a button down the bottom, the Q&A button. So feel free to click in there if you've got any questions for Eli. And what we're going to be doing today is sort of a general bit of a chat. But, you know, whether couples are trying naturally to conceive or they're considering IVF, you know, attempting to get pregnant can be such a toll. And many women report both physical as well as mental challenges when trying to get pregnant. And, you know, some of you know that we, some of us here at IMCO help out at the Ask the Maternity Gurus site. And certainly we get, this is would be one of the leading questions that we receive through the time, is that a couple has been trying for, you know, I've been trying for a year, or we've been trying for 2 years, or we've been trying for 8 years. And, you know, what advice can there be, and what magical tricks are there to become pregnant? And yeah, so it's such an interesting topic, and it's so incredibly prevalent at the moment. But Eli, do you want to start with your own little bit of introduction and explain who you are and what you're getting up to?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me, Kathy. I very much appreciate it. It's nice to be with you all today. I am a certified hypnotist who sort of developed a niche helping clients conceive with those people who have been challenged by that. It sort of happened by accident. I worked with a woman who initially came to see me when I first started practicing, and she was having difficulty. She was undergoing IVF, and she was clearly very stressed, very emotional. And she was able to conceive within about 8 or 9 months. She was able to conceive after working with me. And I realized how powerful hypnosis can be in helping people to sort of reduce their stress levels, to get their emotions in check a little bit. And there's a definite correlation between stress and conception. So what I do, by the way, to take a step back, is I facilitate hypnosis sessions here in New York, where I'm based. I also go down to Florida as well, too, to facilitate sessions down there at times. And I work with a wide range of clients. And since having worked with that woman that I mentioned before, I've developed a sort of niche in helping people to conceive.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, we were sort of chatting a little bit before we went live, but yes, stress is so much part of that journey of trying to fall pregnant when it's taking longer than you hoped. And you know, for women, it's just often such this emotional roller coaster, isn't it, where they, you know, they are ovulating, and that's fantastic, and hopefully they're pregnant, and then, oh no, here comes menstruation, and now we're not, and it's this whole every 28 days going up and down the roller coaster of emotions. It's a tough time. But I guess we need to sort of start at the beginning of what is hypnosis, even, because I think oftentimes, unless somebody's ever experienced seeing a hypnosis therapist, you know, the only thing that we know about is some person standing at the front of a stage, you know, doing some comic thing of people eating apples, eating onions, thinking it's apples, you know, or so that's very different from what you guys do as therapists. But you want to kind of explain that to the layman?
Absolutely. So Yeah, the biggest misconception about hypnosis is that it's sort of a form of mind control. And most people have gone to stage shows where people see people barking like dogs or what you described before. In fact, hypnosis is actually the exact opposite of that. It's a naturally occurring altered state. It's one we experience every single day. We don't recognize it as being in hypnosis, but we are many times each day. Anytime we daydream and lose track of time, that's a very light form of hypnotic trance. Anytime we throw ourselves into a project and we realize, where'd all that time go? And that's because we're so focused on what we're doing, we tune out everything else. Again, an example of very light hypnotic trance. When we watch a great movie or read a great book and we get emotionally involved, scared, excited, sad, we're immersing yourself into that movie or to that book. We disassociate from the outside world a little bit. We experience those emotions as if we're there, as if we're part of that experience. Again, light hypnotic trance. So these are examples of what we do spontaneously each and every day. Hypnosis is the act of being guided into a relaxed state of focused attention. Okay, when I say focused attention, means that the person that I'm working with is focused on what I'm saying and what I'm having them do. So they're sort of disassociating from what's happening around them. They're aware of their surroundings, they're not asleep, but they're more focused on what I'm having them do or say or think or imagine.
It's the way, because a lot of people, do use meditation these days.
Absolutely.
So in a way, it's almost a bit like a guided meditation, isn't it?
It is. It is. There is a difference between hypnosis and meditation, but it's very, very similar in the sense that people who meditate regularly will often describe sort of, losing track of time, which is something you experience in hypnotic trance as well, too. Maybe imagining something very vividly. Maybe it's a scene someplace, or maybe focusing intently on a mantra or a word or something like that, where they're very, very relaxed and they can maybe clear their mind at times. Obviously, that's the goal of meditation, is to try and clear your mind as much as you can. So hypnosis is similar to that. Hypnosis, when you're guided into this state, the unconscious mind, the part of the mind that sort of controls our automatic bodily functions, and our immediate responses that are automatic, we can tap into that part of the mind and give suggestions for change. And in this case, when we're talking about fertility, relieving stress, relaxation, that sort of thing.
So can everybody be hypnotized?
So there's about five. Yeah. So there's about 5% of the population. They've done studies that indicate cannot be hypnotized. So about 5% of the population cannot be. However, I will tell you that based on my experience, and not certainly not perfect, but based on my experience, there are just different levels of hypnotizability. So in other words, some people take to it easier than others, faster than others, get more comfortable than others. When you go to a hypnotist for the very first time, you close your eyes, and some people might be anxious about the idea of maybe giving up control when they're not in fact giving up control. So, but if they have that in their mind, it may take them a little bit longer to sort of get to a nice level of hypnotic trance. So, what I do with all my clients during the first session is explain to them what hypnosis is, just like I did with you now. And I just tell them the goal of my session today is just to get you comfortable with the process, so you know what to expect for next time. And so the idea really is, in my mind, yes, about 5% of the population can't be hypnotized, but I can't remember the last time I didn't hypnotize a client. It might have taken them a little bit longer to get there, but I've been able to hypnotize most people I work with.
Right. And it may be a case that it's not happening that first time because they're just, as you say, kind of adjusting to it, feeling a little unsure about what's going on. And then the next time they come along, they're a bit more comfortable and then their mind's a bit more receptive.
Exactly. And it's a big thing is about the idea of being, in control. Some people want to be in control. And when they realize that hypnosis has nothing to do with taking control of your thoughts or anything like that, but just guiding you into a nice, relaxed space where you'll accept suggestions, which suggestions are basically directions given to the unconscious mind. Once they realize that's what it is, then they are able to relax more quickly.
Right. And because we know, stress has such a huge impact on the ability to conceive, and for that, and even after conception, very much it has a huge impact on that fertilized egg able to actually successfully implant and turn into a successful pregnancy that establishes. And then, of course, stress has such a huge impact on the wellness of the mother during the pregnancy, and which then impacts the health and well-being of the baby. And we know, of course, stress has a massive impact on labor, and how rapidly or slowly that woman's cervix dilates depending on her stress levels. So all the way through that journey, and right through, of course, into breastfeeding and postpartum. So all the way through that journey, stress is not helpful. But it's, there's nothing more frustrating, is there, to be told not to stress when you're stressed. Like, it's just, you can't, I think that for those women who are struggling to fall pregnant, it's like the last thing you want to have another person tell you is that, what you need to do is just not stress, and tell you another one of those irritating stories about somebody they knew that, went on holiday to the beach and finally became pregnant because they were not stressed. It's like, it's not what you really want to be hearing. But we know it impacts. So it's such a juxtaposition, isn't it? That it impacts, but it's really hard not to. And people can be in such a sort of vicious circle with it. It's like, my perception is that hypnosis is just a way to kind of nip it in the bud, and dial things down, and find a tool in your toolkit that allows you to be less stressed. And that's potentially the biggest reason why it helps conception. Is that what you think's going on?
Absolutely. So doing hypnosis is not going to get you pregnant. However, doing hypnosis sessions will help you to de-stress, which will increase your chances of getting pregnant. So that's what hypnosis does for you. So hypnosis itself, when somebody's guided into hypnotic trance, it's a very relaxing state. So you're training your body to relax, and your mind to sort of relax as well too. So if you do that regularly, it stands to reason, and I've seen this with my clients, that you're going to just relax overall. And also what we do is we also reframe the way we perceive the idea of getting pregnant in hypnosis. So, we put all we put all this pressure on ourselves. You just described it, right? We want to get pregnant. Oh my God, my friend got pregnant 6 months ago. How come I'm not getting pregnant? The ups and downs of ovulation and everything else that you described before. So we put all this pressure. I need to get pregnant. I want to get pregnant. When's it going to happen for me? And yet it's supposed to be a beautiful, natural experience, right? The idea of conception. And so in hypnosis, I'm basically reframing the way the unconscious mind perceives the journey. And you have to sort of look at it as a journey of love, and, and look at it that way, versus saying to myself, am I going to get pregnant this month? Will I get pregnant next month? Is this going to be the right time? Is this going to work for me? When you're saying all these things in your mind, what you're really doing is just stressing yourself. And you're not doing it on purpose, because you want that outcome. You want to get pregnant. But in hypnosis, that's part of what I do, is reframe the way the unconscious mind perceives the idea and the journey of getting pregnant.
We know that in general terms, when we're dealing with women or couples, I should say, that are having subfertility or infertility issues, generally around about sort of 40% of it is female related, about 40% of it is male related, about 10% of it is both. And these are areas that are things that we can sort of look at and say, look, the hormones are a little out of whack, or, these supplements and things can assist. And but there's that remaining 10% that's just unknown. And stress is not helping 100% of them.
That's true. That's
right.
True. Yeah, that's true.
But certainly, for that 10%, where even when you've done all the investigations and, you've invested in preconception health care, ideally 3 to 6 months for the sperm and 6 to 12 months for the egg. So you've got, the healthiest egg and the healthiest sperm and that you can possibly produce, and the healthiest womb lining that, the woman can produce. All of that. Even after that, you've still got that 10% who there's just no logical reason. And we don't know how much of that is caused by stress, but boy, we just know it's not helping.
No, it's absolutely not. When you talked about hormones, what some people don't realize is that in hypnosis, when somebody goes into a deep level of trance, they can also release endorphins, which are those natural hormones that sort of help to regulate many different things within the body. And so just from a hormone perspective, hypnosis can be helpful as well too. So, and I'm not sure if the people watching this were aware of that or not, but it's actually can be very helpful from that perspective as well too.
Absolutely, because it's balancing thing. It's allowing your body to stop being in that adrenaline fight and flight mode, far more than it should be, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you stress the body, the mind, it's all, you all tense up and you're just getting in your own way and you're not doing it on purpose, but that's what happens when you get stressed out about something. So
yeah. Hey, so tell us about, the scientific data that is supporting the use of hypnosis. I know that there'll be more, every day. The one thing with research, isn't it, especially when it's maternity related, is the more that we having been a research midwife, the more that we research, the more we realize we haven't a clue. It's like you do some research and you come out with an answer, a conclusion, and you go, wow, that's fascinating. That really, deserves more research, and the research leads to research leads to research. But the whole idea of hypnosis as therapy, is relatively new in the sort of in the history of kind of medicine, so to speak, as far as sort of being treated as a very legitimate healing practice. It's not that long ago, is it, that sort of thing used to be quite poo-pooed. So the research that is being done, I guess, is current and new and cutting edge. Do you want to tell us more about that side of things?
Of course. So there are two studies that come to mind, and they both involve women who were undergoing IVF and were having difficulty conceiving. And so obviously they tested different groups of people, and one group had hypnosis, one group did not. And in both cases, there was a dramatic improvement in terms of getting pregnant with those who underwent hypnosis. In fact, in one of the studies, 50% more, they had a 50% improvement in terms of conception with the group that utilized hypnosis, which only proved to those. It is substantial, yeah. And that was strictly, working on the stress aspect of it. That's it, just getting them to de-stress, doing it regularly. Once, I think in one of the studies was once a week, where they had, a session where they would basically, give suggestions related to stress and reframing how they perceive the idea of getting pregnant. That's pretty substantial in terms of results. And they did that because, they wanted to see if there was something else that can improve their chances. And they were surprised that it was that dramatic of a difference. So these recent studies do support the efficacy of hypnosis.
Fantastic. And yeah, because I think that there tends to be sort of a bit of a assumption that obstetric medicine, has all the answers. So if you've got an, infertility issue trying to conceive, just go see your OBGYN and they'll sort it. And it's just not like that. The tools in their toolkit are pretty limited. It's really just, IVF, IUI sort of thing. It's, that's that routine, isn't it? That the pathway that people are put down. And it's interesting to see more and more fertility obstetric services or gynecological services that are embracing the integrative and complementary services as well, because I think they're realizing that, you know, if you can, as a woman or as a couple, you know, if you go down to the road and you see this particular OBGYN and all he suggests is IVF or IUI, and then you go to this one and he's saying, look, I think you should go see this hypnotherapist, you know, and go see a medical herbalist and naturopath, like, they, you know, get all your ducks lined up in a row.
Sure.
Well, hey, presto, their outcome rates are more successful. So, you know,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And so it's interesting to see as the almost as the resistance of the orthodox mainstream medicine kind of becoming less resistant to the fact that maybe there's some other things that can help their clients beyond just the service that they're doing themselves. It's great to see, you know, that's complementary things coming up, which is, of course, is everything that IMCO is all about. So do you want to sort of take us through, you know, like when you are dealing with a client, sort of what's the process, you know, maybe you'd, how many sessions do they have? You know, how does the whole thing kind of play out, and how often would you usually see somebody, and how does it all work?
Sure. So I typically see a client for 6 sessions, but what I do at the end of those 6 sessions is I give them a customized recording so they can continue to guide themselves into hypnosis once a week throughout the process.
So when you say, you would usually see people, see them about half a dozen times, and that would be weekly?
Would be weekly, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
it's a good real 6-week kind of input into getting, and you must
Absolutely.
see such a difference from, say, the very first time they walk in,
Absolutely.
you know, to
Absolutely.
that last session.
Absolutely. And what's funny is after I'm done after the last session, they almost get hooked on the recording. They love it so much because it's a way to sort of take a break. That's the way they look at it, like, oh my God, I have this, you know, half an hour, 40-minute thing that I can listen to. And it not only relaxes me, but it gives me a chance to just take a break from the everyday life. And so they really enjoy it. And a lot of them continue to listen to it even after the fact, because they enjoy being able to sort of just take a break. And that's what hypnosis allows them to do, in addition to helping them to de-stress, which helps them to conceive. So absolutely. So it's about a 6-week program. And then they take the recording and then they go from there. Typically, that's how it works.
That's great, because basically within that 6 weeks, you've given them the tools, and they've got to that point where really they can do it themselves. And that's, yeah, it's just wonderful. Do you, I guess, do you find yourself sort of dealing with both of the couples, or do you find that it's quite female dominated?
So it is, you know, it's interesting you asked that question. It is female dominated, it certainly is, but more and more I'm actually seeing some of the husbands as well too, or the partners, and you know, because they're also stressed by it as well too, and they said, you know, they realize, okay, my wife is benefiting from this, I can see the changes, let me come in and, you know, speak with them as well,
and their
too.
stress is impacting their sperm.
Absolutely. And if one is very stressed, it impacts the other too, doesn't it? So in other words, it can be a back and forth thing too. So it's in both their best interest to sort of de-stress and sort of, you know, relax a little bit more and not sort of put so much pressure on yourself or on the other.
Yeah, there is such a general misconception out there that, you know, when couples are struggling to conceive, that it's you know, 99% will be the female related, and it's just not scientifically true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 50% is male related.
Yep.
You know, 40% of the time it's 100% something going on with the male, and another 10% of the time it's both sides. So yeah, half the time. And you know, we also know, because it comes down to, the more we research, the more we realize we don't know, we're still learning. But we know, for example, now that quality of sperm impacts the statistical chance of the placenta developing preeclampsia, which, I mean, we often think the woman gets preeclampsia.
Sure.
Well, it's really the placenta that almost kind of gives it to her in a way, and the
Yep.
placenta belongs to the baby. And that's come from the sperm. So we
Yep.
know that impacts. Because we can have situations where, say, for example, a woman has had 3 or 4 pregnancies with one particular partner, never had preeclampsia, is with a new partner, has another pregnancy, wham, bang, she's got preeclampsia. And so we know that sperm impacts that. We know sperm impacts the quality of the egg. There's so many things we know that sperm impacts miscarriages. So there are,
Absolutely.
right? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
women can have recurrent miscarriages assuming it's them, but actually it's their partner that's setting them up to miscarry that baby. So it's great that you're starting to see the guys in there as well, because
Yeah, absolutely.
their
Absolutely.
stress
No,
impacts
they are trickling in, as I say, they are trickling in a little bit. Because they see the benefit. They see the benefit with their wives or their partners, and they realize maybe I could benefit from this as well too. And then when I educate them a little bit, that's when they sort of buy into the idea. So
Do you
I
do
thought it might.
sessions together with them in that circumstance, or do they have them separately? How does that work?
So I do both. So initially I might do it separately just so that they get comfortable with the process, but I like to have them both in the room together because it is a partnership, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
team effort, right? Yeah. So, but certainly I can do it. Certainly I can do it with them together, and I've done that as well too. But initially, I think most people like to do it by themselves first for the first session, and then once they're comfortable, they say, "Okay, I'll do this now with my partner, or my wife, or whomever." So.
That's cool. All right. Well, that's great. Do you want to? Is there any other things that you kind of want to go over and explain to the audience? Things that, yeah, feel free to sort of things
Sure.
that we
So,
haven't really covered off.
So I don't know if your audience is familiar with hypnosis or not, but I thought it might be, interesting to share with them how somebody's guided into hypnosis.
Mm.
And people often think, well, there's a watch or something like that you have to stare at, and it's not. Although you can focus on something, I typically do it by guiding somebody into hypnosis using a combination of confusion, overload, guided imagery, and relaxation techniques. And for a lot of people, especially people who are stressed out, it's the confusion and overload aspect that really guides people into hypnosis. So I will guide them verbally, and I'll use confusing sentences and things like that purposely to guide them into hypnosis. And that's what really is the most effective with people who are very stressed, because they're sort of on guard anyway. So they have to sort of confuse them and overload them a little bit and guide them into hypnosis. But I think, as I mentioned before, once they're guided into that state, they're not asleep. They're aware of the room they're in, the temperature of that room, and everything else as well. But they're just open to receiving suggestions for change. And what another misconception about hypnosis is that people think that if I tell somebody to do something out of character, that they'll automatically do that, when it's actually not true. Hypnosis works best when what I'm asking the client to do subconsciously is what they really want. So if they want to be able to de-stress, be less emotional so they can conceive, when I give those types of suggestions, they're open to receiving it subconsciously because that's what they truly want. So most people have that perception because they see stage shows and they see somebody doing something out of character. And what they don't realize is that the people who get on stage are just open to the idea of doing it anyway, right? There are some people who would never get on stage, would never get up in front of a crowd, let alone let somebody, suggest that they maybe bark like a dog or, something else out of character. So the people who get up on stage are open to the idea of receiving some of those suggestions to do something out of character, something funny in front of a group of people. There has to be that sort of consent, that agreement that between the person who's being hypnotized and the hypnotist. So I just wanted to sort of address some of those misconceptions.
Yeah, because obviously when you're going to shows and you're seeing a hypnotist, she's asking for volunteers. So
Yep.
you're getting those people that want to get on stage and
That's right.
like a dog, as you say.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
fascinating. Oh, that's very, very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. And are you finding that I mean, I know when a business, increases in size, you sort of got that word of mouth that goes on anyway, but are you just
Sure.
finding that it's like an increasing issue. I mean, we just know that fertility or subfertility or infertility is becoming an increasing issue. So have you kind of seen that over the years where you're getting even younger clientele and seeing those sorts of changes?
Absolutely. So first of all, it is a word of mouth thing, as you mentioned, but I think, I think that the issue has always been there, but I just think people have said to themselves, these are my options, IVF, whatever the case may be, right? But when there are other options to try, people are open to trying different things that might help. And because hypnosis has gone more mainstream lately, it's no longer something that's sort of like, mystical or magical or something that, mind control, as I mentioned before, but because people are more open to it now, trying different alternative ways to address things like getting pregnant, they're willing to try things. And if once they realize how relaxing it can be, what the benefits are, then that word of mouth sort of trickles up and you get more people coming in. But I do see people at a younger age coming in, some people in their early 20s coming in, and when I first started, it was maybe, the average age was probably 30 something, 35, somewhere around there. But now I'm seeing more younger women coming in for the same reason. So clearly there's been if it's, I don't know if the problem's always been there at a young age, but certainly I'm seeing more younger women come in now than before.
Yeah. We just know that those fertility rates have just gone down dreadfully.
Yep.
In when you look at the whole length of human history of millions of years, for those fertility rates to have shot down so much so quickly, in just that last 50 or 60 years, it's really very concerning. We're not running out of people on the planet at the moment, but
no, we're not. No, we're not.
Trajectory is that we will, or that we're
Absolutely.
just going to have, such a huge amount of our retiree sort of, our octogenarians and whatnot. We're just going to, and we're going to have fewer and fewer people coming through as being born as future taxpayers to fund it all. It's all of a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's I suppose the other question I would ask is, for the, when you are a birth practitioner of, so maybe you're a maternity health care professional who is not really sort of getting too exposed to that infertility, subfertility issue. Like you tend to, like your clients are the ones that are pregnant, and come in and see you for whatever reason of whatever specialty you do. But you do tend to always get asked about it, when people realize you're in that profession. And you sort of I guess, what if you're not a hypnotherapist and you're trying to explain to somebody else what it's about, and what, is there like a nice little kind of elevator pitch kind of nutshell of what you can sum it up?
When I explain it simply, it's simply relax. Hypnosis helps to relax the mind and the body and to de-stress. And by doing that, you increase your chances of getting pregnant. And people who are trying to get pregnant, they know they're stressed. I mean, if they've been trying to get pregnant for a while, then they know exactly what that means. So the simple way of just putting it is just say hypnosis helps the mind and body to relax and to de-stress, which increases your chances of getting pregnant. That's the most simplest way to sort of describe it. So that's how I would.
Yeah, it's a tool. And you can pile all those tools in, and maybe doing some preggy yoga, or not preggy yoga, you're not preggy, but doing some yoga and doing some meditation and doing your hypnotherapy, and just attacking it, because we do live in such a culture now where stresses becomes so normalized.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like, if somebody, if you work in a team of, I don't know, there might be half a dozen of people in the office and everybody's stressed, and there's that one person that's chilled, and in a way, people aren't even looking at that person going, gosh, don't they handle the stress well? You know, they can be looked at and going, man, we need to put a bomb under him because he's just so laid back. You know,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
you're not fulfillment because you're not stressed enough.
Absolutely. People don't realize how many people are anxious out there and stressed. And we don't connect those two words, but it's also anxious too, right? There's some anxiety related to it as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So the idea of stress and anxiety that are tied together, I'm sure we all know people who are stressed and anxious for different reasons. So
Yeah.
hypnosis, and not the only way, but hypnosis is an excellent way to sort of address stress and anxiety, and the two go hand in hand. And so many of us are suffering from that now. So
yeah, because the stress causes anxiety and anxiety causes stress. And the words are very, interconnected when women themselves are just describing what's going on. I'm so anxious and worried about, actually, that would be a very common one that comes in. I'm so worried about blah, blah, blah.
right.
And, that worry is anxiety, which is stress. And we're going, that's not helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you not worry about something you're worried about? Yeah, look, it's just been so nice talking with you, Eli. And is there anything that you would like to add in before we conclude?
No, I mean,
no, and please do, can you go over your contact details too?
oh,
So,
sure. Sure,
yeah,
sure,
so
sure.
any of the
So,
audience can contact you.
sure. So my website is tryhypnosisnow.com. And our local number here in New York, because I know that people overseas can't call our 800 number, it's 917-836-4040. 917-836-4040. If you have any questions, just want to inquire about something, feel free to call. You don't have to, if there's a nurse practitioner or somebody who's out there who just wants to ask some questions, by all means, give us a call. I'm happy to answer them for you. And I
And let
really
us
hope.
know your email address as well.
Oh, sure. So it's info@tryhypnosisnow.com. That's the corporate email, info@tryhypnosisnow.com. Yeah, feel free to email me as well too. That's fine. I can respond via email as well. And I really encourage, the people who are out there who may, run into people who are stressed or feel anxious about, the idea of getting pregnant, and, maybe they're having difficulty getting pregnant, to just suggest hypnosis, somebody even locally, maybe somebody in New Zealand. It doesn't make a difference where they are, really. It's just so long as they can help. And hypnosis practitioners are trained to help people de-stress and to release anxiety. So, it's definitely a benefit, and I hope more people take advantage of it.
Agree. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to have you here, Eli. And thanks to those who are here live today. And of course, we know that a lot of you are watching these webinars down the track. And we hope that this is, it's been another great day. And we want to wish everybody a wonderful rest of their day and rest of their week. And thank you again for your time, Eli.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.